Well, welcome everyone to this spiritual gathering on Father's Day. We hold this gathering in honor of the Christ consciousness that lives in everything, each one of us, and all that is. And so as I light the Christ candle, would the volunteers come up for our full fourfold lighting of the candle of Christ to represent the emerging new paradigm on earth.
I light this candle for freedom from fear and domination.
I light this candle for the awakening of the heart in all people.
I light this candle for the power of love to transform and condition into order, harmony, and peace.
Oh, and so it is. Well, it's Father's Day. I'd like to read a poem in honor of Father's Day by Rudyard Kipling, who was a famous father. And the poem is called If. You know this poem? Oh, I love this poem, and it's a father's advice to his son, but it's good for all of us. Okay. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good or talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. A man's love for his son inspired that. Love that. So, Rudyard Kipling. There's a biopic about him and his relationship with his son, which they often show on Father's Day. Well, here's our topic. Give your heart to God. What does that mean, really? You know, it's very seldom that I pick a topic that's based all on metaphor. There's nothing really solid about this topic. Give your heart to God. What does that mean? It means give up your ego. You don't hear me teaching on the distinction of the idea of ego, hardly ever. Why? Well, 200 years ago, nobody even had the word ego as a part of our personality or consciousness. It's pretty recent. And there's no set definition for ego. We kind of have a sense of it. We kind of villainize it. But there's no getting rid of it. Paul said, the mind of the flesh. And Charles Fillmore said, the ego is the mind of the flesh. It is carnal mind. I mean, as long as you have a physical body, you're going to have the instinct to have that body survive. That's the ego. But what does that mean to give up your ego? It means letting go of your pride, letting go of your pain even, letting go of your self-importance. You know, when something hurts, if a situation hurts you, I always get through it by saying, well, if it hurts, it's just my ego. It's what I'm making it mean. It's hurting me because of what I am making it mean, and that's my ego. That helps a lot. And what about your self-worth itself? Your self-worth. You know, we have to live with a sense of self-worth. However, that can get in the way. I've seen sometimes we're locked in a cycle of having to prove our worth. There's a difference between having self-worth, giving of yourself, and having faith that there is innate value in you, in yourself. But to have to prove your worth puts you in a place of having to control the outcome of things. And that always gets in the way of the divine plan, doesn't it? So that's just one aspect of ego. So I want to tell you the story of our friend Jeff Govan. How many of you took Jeff's class on self-defense? He has been coming in the past. He's not up to it these days. But he used to teach a class in self-defense because he is a master of martial arts. He is able to get in and disable an opponent. And he loves to tell the story of how he has been threatened in various instances in dangerous neighborhoods, and he would disable the opponent, and he would be able to get right on them and have his forearm across their chest and say, "So do you want to be my friend or do you want to be my enemy?" And right away the person would say, "Oh, I want to be your friend, I want to be your friend." And I said, "Jeff, you could have been a police officer. That's the kind of people we need as our guardian. That's a perfect archetype profile of the guardian, the protector in human society. And some people are born with that." And he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, when I used to stroll through Muskegon Heights, and if anybody did anything out of the way, there's this guy who used to run up and say, 'He's an undercover cop. Don't do anything in front of him.'" He wasn't an undercover cop. But that just shows you that each of us have this innate gift, many gifts that we're born with, that when we discover them and use them, we prosper ourselves and our entire collective. Your heart is the miracle of intelligence, of creative power, of goodness, creating good right out of your heart, of joy, of love. These things abide in the heart. Lift them up into the light of higher understanding, the light of higher wisdom, higher vision, higher thought forms. Lift up your intelligence, your wisdom, your gifts, your creativity to the highest level possible. In unity, we kind of oversimplify everything. We tell you to deny the illusion of evil and separation and affirm the truth of absolute good and oneness with God. So here's a plan for the simple triumph of lifting our hearts to a higher consciousness, or giving your heart to God. And it has to do with adjustment. There's so many things we have to adjust to in life. We have to adjust to time. This idea came to me because I bought a clock last week at Aldi's. It's just this huge clock about this big around. Could be an outdoor or indoor clock. I'm in love with this clock. I have it in my bedroom, and it keeps me from losing track of time, which I have a tendency to do when I'm caught up in all these ideas about transcendence. So adjust to time. You have to have now, I know most of you in here have got this down, but don't you know younger people who don't? We need to be able to articulate to our younger generation the kinds of adjustments that they can make to be more effective and more successful and more fulfilled. You have to plan for 3 good meals. You have to have the food in place. You have to have a schedule to eat it. You have to stop doing what you're doing and sit down and do it. You have to adjust to the need for sleep. You have to put yourself to bed at night. When the sun goes down, you should sleep. When the sun comes up, you should wake. Adjust to it. Admit that this has power over your life. You have to adjust to the progress, the time it takes to make progress to your goals. You can't just throw your hands up and get frustrated because you can't give a workshop at Unity Church because you don't have any workshop plan to give, but you want to be a workshop giver. You have to adjust to the steps needed to create good in the world and to manifest your intentions. And you have to adjust to the time it takes to cultivate relationships. Relationships, boy, that's been a beautiful lesson I've learned in just being here with you all. When I started as your content specialist, I thought I knew you all, but I had no idea what it was really like to really know you. Like yesterday I went to the choir picnic, and I had such a different feeling of being with everyone than I've ever had before. I felt completely natural and completely trusting and completely listening and completely without, stuff. I didn't bring any stuff in my head. I just sat there and just was with people. Well, it takes time to arrive at that place, doesn't it? Do you agree? Yeah. The second adjustment we have to make in life is to adjust to other people. Adjust to other people. We have to listen. We have to be able to listen, have an opening in our hearts to listen to what's being shared that's outside of our own ego. We have to adjust to other people by feeling them. Some of us here are very gifted at feeling other people. It's a real gift to feel what others feel. I was so glad that we could share the feelings of our Alvarez children while they were here, and of the Reeves children when they come. It's a special privilege to feel with children. Adjust to other people by giving what is needed in the moment. And that's what I talked about the first time, that when you respond to the needs of other people, you have to take care of yourself. You have to have your own needs managed so you can hear what is asked of you by other people. You have to be whole enough to be able to give such that what you're giving is whole also. And one of the main things we do in adjusting to other people is learn to partner with them. Partnering is like dance. You have to follow and lead at the same time. You have to be sensitive to the merest energetic dynamic and go with it to create a mutual plan, to create a mutual intention. I think this is the most beautiful thing in life, is partnering. And we have to adjust to be able to partner with other people. We have to make adjustments of our own egos. Now, third one is adjust to your own needs and desires. I want to tell this story about what happened with the children one time. Well, when I was still teaching Sunday school, and Louie's daughter Karna was coming, and she was bringing her 2 little girls, Katie and Kylie. Kylie was about 7, and she came in one day, and she was very downcast and sad. And I saw her face sad, and I said, "What's the matter?" She says, "I want a horse, and my parents say I can't have one." And I told this story to Louie last night to see if it was okay to tell. I said, "Well, why why do they say you can't have a horse? She said, well, because it's too expensive and we don't have the space. And I said, well, maybe you could show them that you're willing to help to get a horse, offer to make a little money on the side. Maybe you could, I always say, go into old people's homes and dust their knickknacks. That's a joke. or just do odd jobs around the neighborhood, help around the house so they have more time to work at their jobs so they can make more money. Just make all these suggestions to them to show them that you're willing to help to shoulder the responsibility of having a horse. By a year and a half's time had gone by, guess what? They had a horse. Come to think of it. I told this story to Louis last night. He said, oh, that's what happened. He said, now that makes a lot of things make sense. I don't know that it was my influence that moved that along, but I do know that I didn't say to her, well, your parents say you can't have, they don't have the money and they don't have the space, so you just have to live with that. We should adjust to the desires of our hearts. And then lastly, this is the unusual one. You need to adjust to the fact that we've lost a certain element of human culture in tribal living, tribal support. You have to compensate for the loss of tribal support. And one way to do that, I think, is by being open and kind of friendly as if you already knew the person everywhere you go. Like if you're standing in line at the bank, the person behind you, I'll often turn and say, I love these African American women in their braids. I love your braids, they're so beautiful. Or if a child is with a family, I say, can I say something to your child? Oh, you look so cute in that dress. Just act like you would act as if you were already well known and appreciative and part of an ongoing community of warmth and support. What would the world be like if everyone acted that way? If we all just dropped this thing of not knowing, I don't know you, I can't talk to you, you're a stranger, blah, blah. If we all just stopped being like that, and we got into this mode of just appreciating and noticing each other everywhere all the time, would that be a better world? Yeah. And I got to thinking, have I ever really experienced this? There was a man at Unity School who conducted something called sensitivity groups. Anybody remember from the 60s something called sensitivity groups? It was a big fad at one time, and some people were really good at it. Because if we started to have sensitivity groups here at Unity, and people came to them, but once you start the group, it has to stay just the people who were in it. Like 8 to 10 people is ideal. And you build up a level of trust. There was a therapist at Unity School who had these sensitivity groups. His name was George Blosser. And he was so skilled at listening to people's real feelings and getting us to share our real feelings. And I tell you, the people in that group became so connected, and their level of authenticity outside of the group became so strengthened and better expressed from being in that I think we should give some consideration to having some kind of program like that was here, that was just for us to be able to share ourselves at a feeling level. What do you think, Jim? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a good idea? I see you with new eyes. You conducted sensitivity groups in the 60s. Whoa. Woo woo. Yeah, it's daring. It really is daring. But you don't have to have the group to find your authenticity and your freedom to express appreciation and joy in other people. And so the best thing that we can do to master the art of giving is to master ourselves in the area of what Unity calls mortal mind. That's what we call mortal mind, and you could just call that ego. That's in a lot of Fillmore's writings. The mortal mind is what we have to free ourselves from. It's the level of consciousness that sees only the material side of life. It's the part of our identity that separates itself and actually worships itself. To give that up. Give it all up. Give it all up to the divine purpose. Give it up to the divine will. Give it up to the divine activity of spirit. Amen. So this is that sacred time in our gathering when we come together to turn within and to commune in spirit with the great mystery and wonder of truth. And so we allow our bodies to relax, to be perfectly comfortable right where we are. We allow our minds to slow down, disengage from the moment-to-moment business, and just open up to the light of peace, truth, and the divine will. And we allow our hearts to soften, to return to their receptive divine state. To that powerful emission of heart energy that heals everything, that creates only good. And as we breathe in the breath of life, we fill our lungs and we fill our entire being with the awareness of God. And so we take our statement together, I am in the flow of divine energy. And let's say that now together. I am in the flow of divine energy. And say it silently in your heart. Divine energy, overarching all other energies, sweeps us into a vortex of light, love, peace, and power. And in this flow that is energized by the mind of God, we now rest in the silence of our own being. In the silence. And we are ever so grateful for the beauty of this moment, for the beauty of this sanctuary, the beauty of this music, the beauty of each other's hearts and minds and souls and bodies, the beauty of all that we think and say and do together. And we feel the prosperity, the abundance, the blessings heaped up, pressed down, and running over that are ours. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. Where's it?